on this 27th day of the war. The Wall Street Journal reports that the Pentagon is weighing sending another 10,000 U.S. ground troops to the Middle East. That's according to Department of Defense officials with knowledge of the planning. 8,000 Marines and paratroopers have already been deployed to the region. Meanwhile, today, the president said he would hold off for 10 more days before ordering airstrikes targeting Iran's energy sector. His decision extends the deadline he set for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. That's the critical transit route for oil tankers. And it's pushing it back from Friday to April 6th. It also gives more time for what appear to be indirect peace talks. Reuters reports that the U.S. has sent a 15-point proposal that includes demands ranging from dismantling Iran's nuclear program and curbing its missiles to effectively handing over control of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran rejected that and then countered with a demand for guarantees against future military action, compensation for losses, and formal control of the strait. Negotiations have reached an impasse as both countries harden their positions. But to be honest, you might be confused about where things stand if you listen to what President Trump said this morning.
They are begging to work out a deal. I don't know if we'll be able to do that. The Iranian regime is now admitting to itself that they have been decisively defeated. They're saying to people, this is a disaster. They know it. That's why they're talking to us. We had to take a little detour, go to Iran, and we had to put out a fire. Very dangerous fire that could have blown up big portions of the world, if not the whole thing. They want to make a deal. The reason they want to make a deal is they have been just beat to shit. I call it an excursion. I had to do a little stopover in Iran, and we had to knock the hell out of them.
An incursion. The president's disapproval rating is the highest it's ever been across both terms, and that's according to a Fox poll. And Americans are overwhelmingly against his handling of foreign policy and the war in Iran. The conflict is weighing heavily on the markets. All three major indexes, they closed down today. We're going to get into that in a few minutes. And one more note, for those of you counting, we are now 221 days away from the midterm elections. With that, let's bring in our leadoff panel. Akayla Gardner, MS Now White House correspondent. Dave Weigel is with us, political reporter for Semaphore. And Miles Taylor, former chief of staff for the Department of Homeland Security during the first Trump administration. He is also the founder of Defiance.org. I will note everyone is in studio except Miles Taylor, so I'm going to start with Akayla. Akayla, we have this report about the Pentagon weighing more ground troops. And again, 10,000, that's a lot of people, a lot of troops. And that's in addition to the 8,000 we know that are already there over the weekend or the course of the last couple of days. We've been talking about the additional more than 2,200 Marines that were being sent there. Mm-hmm. More ground troops does not sound like an off-ramp. More ground troops does not sound like this operation is winding down. Yeah. And there are Trump officials who have said that maybe this strategy could put pressure on Iran. Mm-hmm. Is that, in fact, the case?
You can't always listen to what President Donald Trump is doing, and you have to watch what is actually happening, the actions that the U.S. military is actually taking. And as you mentioned, there's been 8,000 troops deployed to the region. Those include Marines, paratroopers. The president has really kept his cards close to his vest about exactly what their purpose is and what operation they could be. But he's been very clear that he doesn't want to take this option off the table. But there's Republicans and Democrats who've been very clear that this is a red line for them. They believe that the president needs to have congressional authorization before he were to do that. But the president has shown that he is not willing to give Congress a heads up. He believes that they're leakers. He's even suggested that if he believed it was necessary, he wouldn't announce it beforehand. But for a lot of families across the country, they want to know if their daughters and sons are going to be on the ground in Iran, because this war has been fought largely by air up until this point. And I think this would be a huge shift, particularly in public sentiment, which we already have seen has been negative when it comes to the war.
You know, Dave, Akayla makes a point about it's Democrats and Republicans who have concerns about this. Republicans on Capitol Hill right now are largely deferring to the president on this war, at least publicly. How many would likely support more troops on the ground, actual boots on the ground doing a military action? I mean, that Axios reporting that I've mentioned, and we talked about it earlier on the weeknight. there are a lot. Taking over Karg Island is one of the options that, according to the Axios reporting, some military officials are talking about potentially taking over some of the smaller islands that are near the Strait of Hormuz. These things require troops on the ground, actively in harm's way. Is that something Republicans would support?
In the Congress, a lot of Republicans would get themselves around to that position, certainly. The problem they have is that the administration and then back home, they're going to be back home for a couple of weeks, have done nothing to explain to people why that would be necessary. And the procedural argument about Congress's role in this, fortunately, unfortunately, the average voter does not care that much about this. But the average voter, and I've listened to focus groups talking to voters, doesn't know why we're in there. The reasons they've heard after the fact have been, well, we're ending a 47-year conflict, or they are a threat to Israel, not very convincing to the new Republican base. So Republicans, would they give their votes to it? They're not breaking for Trump on anything. They just give the Republican Congressional Committee just gave him a new award they made up this week. They would support him. They are finding at home there's not any organic support for the war. There was, I think, one day of protest by Iranian Americans, and you didn't see the sort of joy from Republicans, the confidence that this is going over well that you did over the average day of the Iraq war. They don't know what to do, but when they're back home and they're asked about this conflict.
Being back home for 2 weeks can potentially make a difference. Miles, the president actually called the Wall Street Journal fake news over its earlier reporting. This is what the reporting said. Quote, the president has privately informed advisors he thinks the conflict is in its final stages, urging them to stick to the 4 to 6 week timeline he has outlined publicly, according to the people familiar with the matter. All right. Well, I think the issue with that is the president doesn't really have easy options for ending the war, and peace negotiations are at a nascent stage. It doesn't seem like the president is being realistic about the situation we actually find ourselves in.
It's not something we've known him to be in really any crisis. But I'll tell you what he is doing, Simone. This is the answer. It's not overly complicated. Donald Trump is on a quest to regain leverage. This was never about objectives for him. He can't even articulate the objectives of this war. He continues to change what he says. It was never about objectives. It was always about optics. Everything with him is about optics. He still doesn't know what the plan is, but he knows that the optics are bad. And he wants to end this looking like a winner or being able to say he's a winner. That's it. That's the whole psychology behind this man in this war. And now we have to figure out what that's going to mean. Donald Trump is not going to pull back from Iran unless he can somehow claim victory.